I get asked all the time for WordPress hosting recommendations, and a name that's always at the top of my list is Cloudways. And that's because Cloudways offers an unbeatable package of features and support, as well as an amazing user interface that allows you to do highly technical things without being highly technical yourself. So, the goal of this video is to show you around Cloudways, give you a tour of everything you need to know, whether you're brand new to hosting WordPress or you're considering moving over from a legacy provider, something that uses cPanel. Ugh, cringe. Let's go ahead and check out what Cloudways looks like in 2025. Now, just real quick, before we get into the nitty gritty details of Cloudways, I want to point out that this is not the first video I've produced touring Cloudways. I produced this video about 4.5 years ago, but the user interface has changed so much, and Cloudways has added amazing features since then. So I figured it was time to update this video. Now, I won't do sponsored videos for just any company. Cloudways has been a long-time supporter of this channel. In fact, I've got an entire playlist that goes into great detail of just about every single feature on Cloudways. So I'll link to that below in the description. As I go through the tour of the user interface, if there's anything you really want to dive deep into, check this playlist. There's probably going to be a very thorough video explaining every single feature. So here is the Cloudways user interface. It's a thing of beauty in my mind, but I could see if you're a beginner, it might look a little bit intimidating. Don't worry, you're in the right place. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to get started on Cloudways, launching your very own WordPress website. Now, the first thing we're going to learn is that websites are called applications on Cloudways. That's because you can run more than just WordPress on Cloudways, but for this video, we're focused in on WordPress. To get started, we're going to create a flexible server. Now, there's also autonomous servers. If you want to know more about autonomous servers, I have a dedicated video on it, but we're going to focus on flexible servers today. So from this home dashboard, I'm just going to click right here on this little arrow where it says flexible, and that's going to take me to my server screen. I could also do that from the left-hand sidebar by going down to the second icon and going to my servers. It's going to look exactly the same. Now, because I don't have any servers on this account, I need to create a new server. What is a server, you ask? Well, it's simply a computer that is permanently connected to the internet. That's going to run our application, aka WordPress. So let's launch a server. We'll go ahead and hit launch now. And from here, we need to configure our settings. This is going to be really easy. We're going to choose our application. We'll do WordPress, but if you're going to install WooCommerce, you could do that right here. It's just going to be an installation of WordPress with WooCommerce already installed for you. Don't worry, if you choose regular WordPress, you can always add in WooCommerce later. Next, we're going to add an application name, a server name, and a project name. Let's go through each one of these so you fully understand what they mean. The application name is going to be your website, so make sure it's identifiable down to the actual website that you're running. I'm going to call this one Dave Demo WP for Dave's Demonstration WordPress website. My server name could be the same thing as my application name if I was only going to run one website on that server. But here's the good news. You can run unlimited applications on a server as long as there's enough computing power to run all of the apps that you want. Think about like multitasking on your PC. You can run as many as you like, but the more you open apps up, the slower the whole system gets. So you want to make sure you leave enough headroom, which we'll talk about a little bit later on as we size up our server. We choose how fast the server actually is. When it comes to the project name, that's really like a folder system. So maybe you have a lot of websites related to one particular business. You could add them all to the same project, and that way they stay organized. Next up, you select your server provider. Now, DigitalOcean actually owns Cloudways, so I suggest you go with them because you know it's going to be dialed in for the top performance. But if you have a particular affinity for Vultr, Linode, AWS, or Google Cloud, definitely don't hesitate. The compatibility has always been there. Everything works great with these other providers. I've used them all over the years. Next up is the server type options. These are very important because they're going to dictate one, how much you're paying per month, but two, how fast your website is, how many people can visit it at once before it starts to slow down. So we definitely want to choose a fast enough server in order to provide a good service to everybody, but you don't want to choose too fast and you'll end up paying for resources that don't get used. So my recommendation is always to start more on the lower end of things and then just simply scale them up as your needs increase. Most service providers will allow you to increase your needs as they come, but going back the other way is more difficult to do so because it can cause issues with the server if you were to scale it down. So always start on the low side and then bring it up as you see the demand. By the way, bringing things up is just a simple click of the mouse. Your site will just be down for a few minutes and then it's going to be back up exactly as it was, but with more resources. The first thing we need to decide is, do we want a basic configuration, which is going to be great if you're just getting started. Think a blog, maybe a local business website, or just doing testing. You're fine with a basic configuration. But as things get more complex, you might want to upgrade to general purpose, which is going to be an entry place for e-commerce stores. Or if you have a very in-demand website, let's say you're reaching thousands and thousands of customers every minute, you're going to want to go with a CPU optimized configuration. Now, this slider down here tells us how much RAM is included with our CPU. If I hover over it, it's going to give me a few more details about the configuration. They're also listed down here in this lower section. So with this server, I'm going to get 4 gigs of RAM, 80 gigs of storage, 2-core processor, and 4 terabytes of bandwidth. Is going to cost me $54 a month. If that's too much, it's okay. I can just scale it down until I find a price point that works for me to get started. So if I went with this 2 gig server down here, I'm going to be paying $28 per month. Now, what I love about Cloudways pricing is that there are no annual commitments. I'm not going to be faced with a huge annual renewal fee where basically my server price goes 3x more expensive and I've got to find some way to maybe migrate in order to get another discount. No, this is the price that you'll pay day one, and it's the price that you'll pay ongoing. In fact, if you run a website on Cloudways for a week and you decide, nah, that website was a terrible idea, I want to get rid of it, just go ahead and delete the server. You're actually billed hourly down here, about 4 cents per hour. That is a great business model. It works really well for consumers, but not as well for Cloudways. I hope no one tells them that they could lock us into monthly or annual agreements, and we'd probably still continue to use their service. All right, so find a configuration that works for you and then choose the location to deploy that server. New York is going to be the default. We can also scroll through and see that they've got service centers all over the world. So let's go with San Francisco in this case, and then I'll hit launch now. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time to get the server set up and install WordPress, approximately 7 minutes, although it just went down to 6. After the server has been configured, we'll be able to log into WordPress and begin to set things up. We can even connect up our own custom domain, install an SSL certificate, and we're going to do all of that in just a moment. Now, while this server is spinning up, I think it's a good time to point out that if you have an existing WordPress website and you want to move it over to Cloudways, it's extremely easy to do so. You can do one of two things. You can do it yourself. I've got a full video to show you exactly what to do, or you can have Cloudways do it for you. They'll move your first site over completely free. To get started with this, go ahead and log into your Cloudways account, and then over here on the left-hand sidebar, under the add-on section, which is right down here, you can see application migration. If you click on that, you can go ahead and submit your application right here. They're going to contact you, get your login credentials, and basically move you over at no cost for the first site. Actually, it looks like they've upped the ante. No cost on the first 5 managed migrations. So that's an absolutely amazing deal. All right, my server has been created and now my WordPress website actually exists, but it doesn't have the proper URL that I want it to have eventually. That's not going to stop us from looking at it, however, so I'm going to click right over here where it says www. That's going to open up this sidebar where I can see the different applications installed on my server. Keep in mind, I can add unlimited applications to this server. For now, I'm good with the one, so I'll click right here, and now I've got the application URL. So let's open that up and we can see we've got a full-blown WordPress website. It's plain, it's boring, but it's definitely WordPress. Now, back in Cloudways, under Access Details, we have everything we need to be able to log into WordPress and begin using it and actually building out a proper website. We've got our username and password here for the admin panel. They even give us a handy link to open up that admin panel so we can log in. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, I'm going to copy this password here with this handy little button. That's going to copy it to my clipboard. I can remember my username. So let's go ahead and log in here. And here we go. I'm logged into the admin admin panel of WordPress. If you're familiar with WordPress, you can begin building. If you're not, you should check out my WordPress Made Easy series that's due for an update very shortly here. So stay tuned for that. Definitely get subscribed to the channel if you want to know more about how to get going with WordPress in 2025. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that Cloudways is always at the top of my list when it comes to WordPress hosting recommendations. The reason that it's at the top of my list is speed, security, and backups. No one really does it better or more comprehensively than Cloudways. I'm going to show you all of that in just a moment, but before we get into speed, security, and backups, we got to connect up a domain name here because this one's kind of ugly, and I'm sure you have a custom domain name you want to connect up. So let me show you how to do that. We'll get SSL set up, and we'll talk about those 3 essentials. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to assume that you already have your own custom domain name that you purchased at a place like Hover, GoDaddy, Namecheap, Porkbun, any of those, they'll be just fine. If you purchased your domain name along with your hosting and it's tied to like your cPanel account, you're probably going to want to transfer it over to another provider. I'm currently using Cloudflare for my domain name hosting, but you can use whatever provider you prefer. So with domain name in hand, I'm going to click on domain management over here in the access details, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a domain right here with this big button. Then I can simply type in the name of the domain that I've already bought, and then I'm going to hit save changes. It says saving changes to your additional domains, and a moment later, everything is ready. Now notice that the Cloudways kind of ugly URL is set as the primary, and my new custom domain is set as the alias. So I want to change that. I'm going to click on the triple dots here and choose make primary. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I've pointed my domain over to the Cloudways server. This is kind of like updating your address when you move to a new location. You have to let your credit card companies and your bank know where you're currently living. That's all we need to do. The important information that you need is the IP address, and that's right here under access details. We'll go to public IP and just copy it. Then over where you purchase your domain, you're going to create a new DNS record. Choose add record, make sure it's an A type, use the @ symbol for root, assuming you don't want to use the www. We'll cover that in a moment, and then paste in your IPv4 address. If you're using Cloudflare like I am, turn off proxying for right now and go ahead and hit save. Now, if you also want to have the www version of your website, and why wouldn't you, you can simply set up a redirection. So go to add record right here. Redirections are CNAMEs, so choose that, enter www, and then for the target, go ahead and specify your custom domain name. So mine is brainrevenue.com. Once again, I'm going to turn off the proxy status for Cloudflare and hit save. And back over in Cloudways, under domain management, I'm just going to add in that www option. I'll type www.brainrevenue.com and go ahead and hit save. All right, with my second domain added, I do want that to be an alias because I want the primary domain to be brainrevenue.com without the www. So I'll click the triple dots here and choose make primary. Now I can set it as primary. It's just going to take a moment to update that on the server. By the way, this would normally be a complex series of commands you'd have to do on the command line interface if you didn't have Cloudways. All right, everything's been updated, and you can see that brainrevenue.com is now my primary domain, and the www is currently an alias. We're just about done with this domain setup stuff, but I do want to have an SSL certificate so that people get the padlock when they visit my website. To do that, I'll go right over here where it says SSL Certificate. I'm going to leave Let's Encrypt as the default option here, but if you've purchased an SSL certificate someplace else, and there are valid reasons you might want to do that, you can go ahead and upload it right here. But Let's Encrypt is going to be good for 99% of people out there, and then it's just entering in your email address and your domain name and installing that certificate. You do want to do things in the order that I have suggested them so that the actual domain name is resolving through to the correct IP address of the server. Don't start off with the SSL certificate and then do the DNS entries. Things will not go well for you. All right, the SSL certificate has been issued. I'm also going to add in the www version. So once again, I'm going to hit save changes here and just wait for everything to update. All right, everything is all done. So let's go ahead and double check that all of our work has paid off and everything's functioning as we expect. I should see a default WordPress website when I visit brainrevenue.com. Go ahead and try it out. Brain revenue resolves immediately, and we are secure. You can see we've got the HTTPS up at the top. Perfect. Now, what if I go to www? That should redirect me. And sure enough, it does. All right. We are in good shape. All right, so we've got our WordPress website up and running. It's even got an SSL certificate with a custom domain name. We could begin building and have the website of our dreams. So now let's focus in on some of those hosting things that are really important to get done correctly. First, speed. We want to make sure we have a fast website. And in my opinion, it's pretty hard to find a hosting provider that gives you a better value than Cloudways when it comes to speed. And let me tell you why. All right, so here is the back end of brainrevenue.com. There are a few things here related to page speed that I think kind of fly under the radar in terms of their actual value. The first one I want to talk about is Object Cache Pro. This is an extremely expensive plugin that gets included on every single Cloudways website that can absolutely make a difference when it comes to things like WooCommerce hosting. Here's the Object Cache Pro website. I just want to point out the pricing here. If I go to pricing, it's $95 a month or $950 a year. We're getting this absolutely free with our $28 a month plan on Cloudways. Kind of mind blowing. Now, I have an entire video dedicated to speed and performance and caching on Cloudways. I definitely recommend checking that out to get a lot more detail. But Object Cache Pro is so unique because you don't find it on very many hosting providers. It's usually something you need to pay for extra. And it does something that truly moves the needle when it comes to handling a lot of customers that generate revenue for your business. And that is cache your database in a way that doesn't make things go all funky when it comes to e-commerce. So they have a long comparison table on their website here. I highly recommend checking it out. There's a long list of rather technical sounding features, which I won't get into the weeds in this video just for the sake of length, but I want to point out that they have one of the only WooCommerce optimized integrations for object caching, and that really is a big deal if you're doing e-commerce on WordPress. Next up is page caching. Now, you might pay extra for a page caching plugin that you run on all of your websites. You could very easily swap that out for something like Breeze, which is included on every single Cloudways website. Now, truth of the matter, I don't really use a lot of WordPress page caching. I use object caching and what I'm about to talk about next, which is edge caching through Cloudflare. So Cloudways is working with Cloudflare. Now, this is going to come at an additional cost, but if you're serious about your WordPress business, and if you've made it this far into the video, you probably are, you'll want to check out their Cloudflare integration. So from their admin panel, you'll go to Cloudflare right down here, and for 1 to 4 domains, you're going to pay simply $5 per domain. If you are a WordPress agency and you have a lot of domains, you can go ahead and pay as little as $2 a month per domain. Even if you bought the basic WordPress optimization package from Cloudflare, you're going to pay $5 a domain no matter what. And here we're getting full Cloudflare Enterprise, including edge page caching. Now, why that's so important is that every single point of access that Cloudflare has over the entire globe can cache the website so that people in those areas get ultra fast delivery of your site. It's absolutely the fastest way to deliver website content all around the world when you only have a single server sitting in San Francisco, but someone's visiting your website over in Australia. Cloudflare Enterprise is amazing, highly worth it at $5 a month, and especially at $2 a month. So those are my favorite speed options on Cloudways. I highly recommend pairing Object Cache Pro with Cloudflare Enterprise. Absolutely blazing fast speeds. Next, let's talk about some of the backup options, which are very critical to give you peace of mind to know that your website is never at risk. Even if there is an attack, you'll always have a backup available. Now, we actually have quite a few options here. We can go ahead and just take a backup of our website right here inside of the application settings. So I'm on the application level and I've got backup and restore, and I can just click this button and now my application is being backed up. All right, cool. But we can also do a whole lot more. We can do server level backups, which they link you to right here. But if you don't know how to find this page, you just go to your server settings. So here's my list of servers. I'm going to click on it, and then I'll go down to backups right here. Now, with server level backups, I can do a few different things. One, I can schedule them to happen automatically. So let's say I want a backup, I don't know, every 6 hours. I can definitely do that. I can set a retention time of up to 4 weeks. Now, that's going to create a lot of data. I don't recommend doing quite so much unless it's actually valuable to you. But if you want to, the option is available. Now, next, we have the option for local backups. What that means is I can store the files on my local server. So if you toggle this switch right here, it's going to use up the storage space on the VPS that you're already paying for. This is great in theory, but often I also recommend doing offsite backups. The idea would be is if something goes wrong, if the hardware fails for your server, you don't want all of your backups right on that server. The more backups, the better. So I don't think it's bad to do some local backups, but doing offsite backups is always going to give you a little bit more peace of mind. Keep in mind there is a fee for offsite backups. Cloudways charges about 3 cents per gigabyte for offsite backups. So if you have, let's say, 4 versions of your website that you're keeping around every single month, you're looking at right around $2.50 in backups. So we've got site level backups, server level backups, offsite, on-site. You can schedule them out. There's a lot of flexibility when it comes to traditional backups. But there's one more feature I want to tell you about that I really think you're going to love if you are not a WordPress professional who just loves slaving away at WordPress every day. And that's something called safe updates. Now, everybody knows that WordPress has constant updates. The themes need updates. The plugins need updates. WordPress itself, WordPress core needs updates. And if you don't want to manage all of that, or you might be managing it for your clients, well, you should definitely check out Safe Updates. What this is going to do is actually update your website as frequently as you want. So you create a schedule. It's going to take a backup before it actually does the updates. And then as it applies the update, it's going to do visual regression testing and performance testing to make sure that nothing changes about the way your website looks and nothing changes about the way your website performs before actually making the website live again with the new changes. So in my mind, this is an absolute steal of a deal at only $3 a month for your first 5 websites. After that, you get a discounted rate of only $2 a month per website. Now, truth be told, I have a full video on safe updates that is linked in the playlist in the description. So if you want to know more about this important feature, definitely check that out. When it comes to security, this is where Cloudways just blows the competition out of the water, in my opinion. We've got essentially 3 different layers of security before anyone can even get to your WordPress website. If you start off with the Cloudflare Enterprise add-on, well, you're going to prevent people from even hitting your website at all. Now, we've already talked about Cloudflare Enterprise when it comes to speed and performance. And for that same price, you're also going to get a ton of security benefits as well. For one, you're going to get their managed WAF, which stands for Web Access Firewall. This is going to prevent the bots, the bad guys, from even getting to your server at all. They're not going to cause any traffic or any data usage on your server. It won't slow down your visitors because they're being blocked before they even enter the proximity of your business. You also get DDoS protection through Cloudflare Enterprise, which means if someone is trying to take your website down, often the bad guys will go ahead and do a DDoS attack, meaning that they will send thousands of bots trying to bring your website down and telling you that if you pay them off, they will then make your website freely available again. Now, obviously, if you do that once, there's nothing to stop them from doing it again and again, trying to constantly extract cash out of you. So having DDoS protection from Cloudflare is the best way to mitigate this, and it's all available in that same $5 a month that you're paying for your edge caching and your image optimization. Now, I don't have Cloudflare Enterprise on this demo site right now, and I just spun it up at the beginning of this video, and I can see another firewall that's running at the server level. And guess what? Just while I've been recording this video, there's already been 85 events on that firewall. So they're getting to the server because I'm not blocking them before they arrive. But good news is Cloudflare has another layer of protection at the server level, so they're not getting to my application. They're not slowing down the website at all. In fact, they're getting a splash screen to confirm that they're actually a human being. 85 times since I started recording this. I can't even believe it myself. If there are any suspicious activity happening on your website, they will be logged right here under incidents. Now, thankfully, I don't have any of those on my demo site that I just created, but you could find it right over here. A couple of other nice features that Cloudways provides is domain reputation. So they can find out if your domain is blacklisted through any of the providers that go ahead and check for that sort of thing. Sometimes this can happen accidentally, and a simple email can solve that problem. Maybe you acquired the domain that was used previously for something unsavory. Well, now you can find out about it. It's really nice to have this right here inside of Cloudways. And remember that server level firewall I was talking about a moment ago? There are some settings right here so you can actually see who has visited the website. You can whitelist them, meaning that they can freely access the website, and you can also blacklist them. In fact, you could blacklist entire regions if you didn't want them to visit your website. Right over here, I could blacklist a country or a block of IP addresses if you know someone's up to no good. Moving from the server level to the application level, WordPress itself, there are even more security options inside of Cloudways. Now, maybe you don't have safe updates on and a plugin doesn't get updated in a timely manner. And unfortunately, everybody knows that can lead to hacks on WordPress. So what do you do about it? Well, over inside of Cloudways, you simply go to application security right here. And if you suspect that something has gone wrong, you can go to the vulnerability scanner right here, and it will scan your website, core, themes, as well as plugins to let you know if anything looks out of place. One of my favorite things about this feature is that it's provided by PatchStack, which in my opinion is one of the best, if not the best, WordPress security companies around. So to have them doing the vulnerability scanning, that really means a lot in my book. Now, if you do find something wrong with your website, or you're just more of the conservative type that would rather pay a little bit extra in order to avoid any problems in the future, head over to the malware protection section where you can actually add on additional protection from Immunify 360. What they're going to do for you is give you full system protection. They'll check your database, they'll check your files, and make sure that no malware is injected. And if they find some, they can clean it up automatically. So that's how to get up and running with your WordPress website on Cloudflare, as well as a tour of what I consider to be the 3 most important areas to consider when choosing WordPress hosting. That's going to be speed, backups, and security. You might be wondering, well, what about emails? I've got all of my emails hosted over on blank hosting provider. Well, don't worry, I've got a video to explain what to do with your existing email accounts and how to move them over to another provider that works very well with Cloudways. I'll link to that video right over here somewhere. Check it out. My thanks to Cloudways for sponsoring today's video, and I'll see you in the next one.